everybody, my name is Anya Benedict, and today I'm going to be interviewing John and Sue Marsden on 1980s consumerism. Today's date is Monday, June 2nd, 2025. What made people want to buy so many things in the 1980s?
Wow. I think there were a lot of new products available, like technology things, like personal computers came out in the 80s.
Okay.
Macintosh, IBM, Walkman. I remember our kids really wanted Walkmans. 40 years ago, that was a big deal. The economy was on the upswing, so even though we did hit some difficult years in the 80s economically, I think people felt like their wages were going up. I think people felt like, yeah, I'm gonna get a raise. I can spend money now. So I think the attitude was more like to buy.
Okay.
There probably are some negative things too, like people, the more stuff a person had, maybe the better they thought about themselves, or, you know.
How did advertising in the 80s influence what people bought?
Really, really targeted marketing, mostly television. You didn't have personal phones were just coming out, so you didn't have that kind of thing, but I think people were seeing new products all the time. Particularly, a lot of our kids were really young then, and I remember them watching kids' TV, and there was always a lot of advertising for this toy, that toy, or whatever, and of course, they had to have that.
Yeah.
So it's even more with all the algorithms. If you show any interest on something on your phone.
Yeah, social media has changed.
Were there any popular brands or products that everyone wanted during the 1980s?
Nike was a really big brand. It's today yet, but it was in its early days there. That was huge. Nintendo was just coming out then, and our kids definitely wanted a Nintendo game set. It's kind of funny. We looked all over town, and this was for Christmas, and you couldn't find one. So we had our name on several lists. So we bought a Sega Genesis, which was the other option. And I still remember. And then the day before Christmas, so we went and get it, and it got the Nintendo. And I remember they opened up the Sega, and one of our sons, Nick, I could just tell he was disappointed. Then he tried to recover because he was just so glad to get a gaming system. He said, "Thank you so much." And then we said, "Well, if you like that one, you might like this one more." So then we brought out the Nintendo, and they were just like, I think starter jackets also were around then. That was a huge thing in school.
Yeah.
Almost dangerous because people would get bullied and robbed.
Did technology change the way people shopped?
Well, maybe some with more TV ads and stuff, but
personal computers were just coming out. Macintosh came out, I think, in '84. So in the later '80s, that would have been, I think, more so. But in the beginning, and people still, like today, listen to radio. Print ads still had a lot of power.
people still read the paper.
Not so much today, probably. We didn't. I don't think. When did we get a computer personally? It wasn't until the very end. I mean, it's our television at that time. We had a lot of kids and
we didn't have a whole lot of money to put into the economy as
Yeah.
consumers.
A 12-inch black and white TV.
Wow.
Can you believe it?
No.
Maybe, it might have been 13.
Oh.
But yeah, so eventually we, moved up.
How did music and TV shows affect what people bought back then?
Kids were between 1 and 11. They'd see things on TV. They'd see people wearing things. I want that.
Yeah.
And with brands, when they would go school shopping, you couldn't just have a generic pair of jeans. It had to be the brand. So I think TV shows and music, what people wore, that had an impact. The commercials targeting the different age groups around the shows. Our family was a big sports family, so watched games. We all noticed those things and wanted them. So,
were credit cards a big deal in the 1980s? And then did people use them a lot?
It's a great question.
Well, you were running a bookstore then. Did people
Correct.
use credit cards there?
But
or no?
our particular store had its own credit system, so we didn't use Visa.
Credit.
We didn't, I don't think we had a credit card until maybe toward the end. We lived in Prior Lake that whole time. We moved over to Invergrove Heights in '91,
Okay.
so a couple of years at the tail end. Then we had credit cards, but so maybe toward the very end we did. I think so. People, it was a much more cash-oriented economy in the early '80s. It probably shifted in the mid '80s. I just remember our kids going to college and being deluged with credit card offers. But still, people were writing checks and using cash.
People had to balance a checkbook,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Well, thank you guys so
Anything
much.
else?
No